Well, I'm not falling over myself, and neither is our intrepid researcher here, Jeff Meads, because his motorcycle is kitted up with these outrigger devices on either side of the bike to prevent it falling over. What they're doing is developing at the laboratory here a gadget which one day could prove very helpful to the motorcyclist of tomorrow to overcome a mistake or the sort of skid that can happen merely by putting your brakes on. The bike can be braked conventionally, or the device can be switched in like so. Okay, Jeff, away we go. Well, the bike is coming down the strip at 30 miles an hour, the strip wet and slippery. It's got its anti-lock front brake there. When it reaches these marker bollards, it's going to do an emergency stop. Let's see how long it takes to stop. Okay, we'll just mark where the bike finished up, completely under control with its anti-lock braking device working. Okay, Jeff? We're going to do the thing again at the same speed, come down through the bollards at 30 miles an hour, this time though with the conventional standard braking only. The standard brakes, very efficient, working well. But look how much further it's taken for the bike to stop this time. Also remember, the very first moment that ski hit the ground, that's when the skidding two-wheeler rider would have been thrown. You know, there's an even more important safety feature than the anti-lock braking we've just seen, because it can be done by any rider now. About 1/3 of motorcycle accidents are caused by people simply not seeing the motorcyclist, even in daylight. So the laboratory here's assessing means of making them more conspicuous, even against changing scenery. They think at the moment the best combination is a red fluorescent waistcoat, a white helmet and a day-glow headlamp cover.
Three very useful aspects of safety there, Mr. Silverleaf, but my question is when? I know it's easy enough to tell a motorcyclist to wear conspicuous clothing, as Richard said, but take driver communication, for instance, as Tony was talking about. When can we hope to see that?
Well, at this stage of our work, we're concerned primarily with the possibilities, the problems, the costs of different ways of giving more information to drivers. And it's by no means certain that either of the in-car systems will be widely adopted. That's a question really for international discussion and agreement. And even if one of them is chosen, it'll really be quite a few years before you can begin to see it in general use.
What about the anti-lock on the brake? I mean, that seems terribly important.
Well, that's rather different. Once we've shown through our work that anti-lock brakes for motorcycles can produce a significant safety improvement and that they can be incorporated reasonably cheaply, then it's first of all up to manufacturers to offer them and also to governments to a considerable extent to decide whether or not to make them compulsory.
In other words, you can only recommend, you can't insist.
Oh, absolutely so.
I know a critical part of your work is on road safety as geared to road construction, for instance, with central reservation barriers like this for the design of these for motorways. But now we have flyovers and motorways up in the air. What about bridge parapets? They must present a worry, surely.
Well, they do indeed.
To be done to bridges as they exist at the moment?
Not to bridges themselves in that sense, but to design better parapets, yes, we feel there is quite a lot that still needs to be done.
And once again, you can only recommend to governments and hope that they will pick up the ideas.
Exactly so, but of course it's up to us to make sure that the results of our work are well known.
Right. Well, a vital aspect of safety. And to carry on with our look at the safety work going on here at the lab, we're going to see some of the safer cars we'll be driving in the future. Tony Bastable.
Not all the laboratory's projects actually happen here. For instance, they put up half the £730,000 British Leyland needed to develop this range of experimental safety vehicles. Here's one based on the Morris Marina. And if you want to, you can drive into a stationary car in it at 80 miles an hour and the doors will still open and you'll still be able to get out and live. Or failing that, you can be driven into in the side there at 30 miles an hour with exactly the same result. But however efficient it is in that field, you can't deny that with looks like this, it does look a bit like an accident looking for somewhere to happen. You can't say that of this one. This is its big sister, the Phase 2 version, and it has all the impact-absorbing capacity of the other one we just looked at. It's also been designed even more with a pedestrian in mind. One has to remember that in this country, more than twice the number of accidents involve pedestrians than, say, in the United States of America. That's why we find very, very low solid rubber bumper there, no protrusions, nice flat bonnet area coming right up here, nothing sticking out to tear into the skin or break limbs. Windscreen nicely recessed behind the metal lip here so that it doesn't hurt the driver, and the wipers recessed as well so that, again, they don't tear into the pedestrian. The headlights actually are rather interesting. Shades of Lotus, this is how they work. Just like that. And if you should be unlucky enough to run into a pedestrian at night, then this will shear right off and should cause no damage whatsoever to the person, that is. But it's when you get inside the car that the fun really starts. Starting from the bottom, notice that the door sill here is very much higher than the bottom of the door to prevent the door from intruding into the passenger compartment in the event of a side impact. Also, the car is fitted with our old friends, the highly automatic passive restraint belt here. Like so, in fact, it's not possible to drive this car without wearing seatbelts. The only problem is that with this kind of seatbelt, it means that you cannot actually move the passenger seats here. But they've turned that into an advantage by bolting the whole lot straight through and through to this bulkhead, which gives enormous support in the event there of a side impact. But of course, you've still got to make the interior of the car fit people of all heights. So to do that, you have to have a steering wheel that moves in and out, which they've done, and also make a facility to move the pedals, which they've done here by motorising them backwards and forwards like so. And the whole inside, as you might expect, swathed in highly scientifically designed padding. In fact, the whole thing the result of years of research.
Mr. Silverleaf, I know you've been studying capacity, the capacity of roads to take the traffic, the capacity of buses like this to take the passengers on those roads. What are your conclusions, say, starting with public transport?
Well, the major public transport problems are, of course, in cities and inner urban areas. And here we can see, first of all, quite a number of ways of helping buses, which, after all, are the main public transport mode nationally. There are a number of ways of this. Bus lanes, for example, we can improve their layout and the way in which they're operated, giving buses priority at traffic lights. And there are cunning ways of doing this, which, again, minimize, if they don't entirely eliminate, the disadvantage of the private car. And then even more broadly, area traffic control, in which traffic signals over a wide area, not just along a single length of road, can be coordinated so that you get a very much better flow through the whole network. And indeed, the systems of that kind that we've been developing here for coordinated traffic signals are now being used worldwide, as well as throughout this country. For example, Washington, D.C. is on the system that we've developed here.
So in many ways, we're leading the world in that respect. That's in the cities, but what about in the country?
Well, the public transport problem there, of course, is very different in semi-urban and rural areas. The major problem, of course, is that it's low-density areas, relatively few passengers, not enough income to keep bus services operating profitably. And so, among other things, we're looking at systems like this dial-a-ride or dial-a-bus service, which is one of the ways of filling the gap between the private taxi and the conventional bus-on-a-stage service.
Are there any simpler methods we look forward to in the future?
Well, broadly, of course, the whole aim is really to make the most of what we have, to make sure that we use our roads, our vehicles, and all the other transport facilities we have in the best possible way. And I think we're continually striving for ways of doing just that. For example, our area traffic control, we're extending it even further. We've developed many roundabouts. We've found other ways of minimizing the delays at individual bottlenecks and intersections. Now we're seeing if we can find ways of putting all those together so that in a complete urban network you can get a very much more effective flow and a better integration between all the ways of moving people and goods. Roads,
does that include railways as well?
Oh, very much so. Coordination, integration of road, rail and all our other inland transport services is a major objective.
And the private motorists can only benefit from that?
Oh, one certainly hopes so.
Mr. Silverleaf, thank you for showing me around.